Howdy people, welcome back to the pod. Hope you've all been doing really well since I last spoke to you. I am getting mega bored of explaining why it's been so long between uploads at the start of each episode, so I've decided from now on, if I have anything to say about where I've been and what I'm working on or when the next upload is going to be, I will stick it up on my Instagram stories. Incidentally, if you don't follow me there or on my TikTok already, please go ahead, help a gal out, give me a follow. There'll be more fun content coming for you soon on both of those. But for anybody who doesn't and didn't see the story that I put up about why I haven't uploaded in a month, I was the illest I think I've probably ever been with some sort of bug for about 2 weeks, and then straight after recovering from that, I buggered off on holiday, and I'm very much still playing catch up. So this is coming out a lot later than I would have liked it to, but it's fine. We're back on the ball now. The ball's rolling again, and I'm excited to just get back into swing of things, get back into more regular uploads. But if you're new here and or don't give a shit, first of all, welcome if you're new. But don't worry, that's all the updates done from me, and I'm gonna get on with the episode content. Today's episode is actually sort of a follow-up to a post that I put on my Instagram and TikTok back in January. In terms of being so new to content creation, I am very much still finding my feet with what kind of content I want to make. And in all honesty, I think when I started the podcast and social media together, I thought it would be a lot easier to launch myself straight into long form content creation and short form content creation. And it's just not quite happened that way. I feel like I had a much stronger idea in my head of what I wanted the podcast to be. So that's been lots easier to just get on with. But with the short form content, I feel like I'm not quite there yet in terms of, I don't know, well, I have ideas about the kind of stuff that I want to put out. I want to start doing some vlogging style videos so that people can see like me putting into practice the things that I'm talking about and the lifestyle and the routines and the habits. And I want to do more talking videos, but it probably was, I don't want to say it was a bad decision to try and start both at once, because I think actually just starting and throwing yourself in there and getting the ball rolling is like, that can never be a bad thing because you learn from every mistake you make anyway. So I'm still happy that I did it, but it definitely, like the social media aspect definitely doesn't look like I want it to at the moment. Like pretty much all I've posted has been short clips from the podcast, and I do want to get more original content out on both of those pages. But I did make this one post that was like a little carousel of reminders for the week, and I liked the content, like I liked the message behind it, I liked the reminders I was putting out, obviously because I wrote them, but I think I'm not quite happy with the format of it. I think if I'm gonna put out like really short to the point snappy quotes or whatever on social media, I either want to lean into the aesthetic fun side of it, which I do like consuming and I do think is beneficial, because I think when you make something aesthetically pleasing and attention grabbing and a bit more fun and interesting, it makes it more digestible and retainable for people. It means they're more likely to remember it. But I think I either want to lean into that side and actually put some effort into the graphic design instead of just putting some green text on a white background, or I want to delve a bit more into what I'm actually writing and maybe do it as a talking heads video and unpack it a bit. So yeah, I felt a bit meh after posting it because it just felt really surface level and not necessarily like I'd posted something of any high quality, which is fine. I'm just a baby. I'm just muddling through this. I'm starting out. But I thought I would be happier making like a full episode about it so I can actually talk about the things I was saying, because I do stand behind them and I do think they were important and positive perspectives to share. I would just like to give a little bit more depth to what I said. Also, one of the best things about being like a teeny tiny baby creator is that literally nobody sees your stuff. And I genuinely mean that. I don't mean that to be self-deprecating or pitying at all, because it means when I post something and I don't like it or I feel a bit meh about it, like it's fine. I can just recycle, reuse it, upgrade it, better it, and chuck it out there for a fresh set of people to see. Anyway, time to get on with the actual episode content. I'm going to talk about 6 out of the 7 reminders that were in that post. I've left 7 out for like its own episode, and I think I've flipped the order around a little bit so that it flowed better today. Before I get to talking about those reminders in that post, I want to say that one of the simplest but most impactful and important quotes I think I've ever heard is that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. What it means to me is that so much of whether we have a positive day-to-day experience or not comes down to how we perceive and interpret what happens to us and what we choose to focus on and what we take away from each day. It's less about the actual events that we're experiencing and more about how we see those events and what we think about those events. Our thoughts and habitual ways of thinking and beliefs act as like the sunglasses that we see the world through, and we will all have a completely unique pair of lenses that have been shaped by our experiences and our ways of thinking that we have adopted throughout our lives. But the key bit of knowledge to always keep in mind is that it is possible for us to change our own lenses by changing the way in which we think and changing our own perspectives. We've probably all met at least one pretty much consistently glass half empty person and one almost continuously glass half full person in our lifetimes. And we all know the ones. There are the people who wake up every day with something to complain about. There's always something that's gone wrong. They seem to want to pick apart every part of their existence, find the negatives in everything, and can never seem to just be happy and content in any moment. There's always something to moan about. And then on the flip side, you have the people who are always looking for silver linings, are always able to put a positive spin on things. And certainly from my experience, those people to me seem to be much lighter and happier and more hopeful and more pleasant people to be around. I don't think these people were just born this way with this sunny disposition, and I don't think you have to be a happy, positive person. I think you can become one by training your brain to see the world this way, by continuously feeding it new positive perspectives. So this episode is about some beliefs and perspectives that I try to live by in order to colour my own sunglasses in favour of living a happier, lighter, more hopeful life. Also, if you see me looking down to my left at any point, I am just reading notes off of my laptop, and in terms of the original statements that I made, I haven't memorised them, so I'm probably just going to read them straight off it because it's easier. Starting off with number 1. You never know when the next best day of your life is going to be, but if you wake up and decide to make today a great day, the chances of it being today are higher. Okay, I had a lot of fun nerding out all over this one when I was making notes because I love so much the brain science behind it. Our brains are constantly taking in millions of bits of information from our bodies and environments, and I actually Googled the numbers for this out of sorry, I think I just hit the mic if there was a massive noise there. Out of curiosity, I wanted to know how many bits of information our brains were receiving per second, per minute, whatever. And the most common answer that I got back from websites was that our brains take in about 11 million bits of information each second, which is like insane enough on its own, but that our conscious brain only processes between like 40 and 50 of them, which is wild. We also all have this part in our noggins called the RAS, which stands for Reticular Activating System, which acts as a kind of filter over our brains, which sifts through those 11 million bits of information and decides which 40 something get through to our conscious brain. The way that the RAS works is that it chooses what to filter out based on what you tell it is important to you through the things that you think about and the things that you speak about and the things that you choose to focus your time and energy on. It's kind of like your social media algorithm in that way, in that it shows you more of what it thinks you like and what it thinks is important to you by highlighting it and focusing on it and bringing it to your conscious attention. The best example I've heard somebody use in order to explain how you can observe the RAS in action in an everyday scenario is from Mel Robbins' second book, The High Five Habit, which is a great read, incidentally. But she talks about how when you're thinking of buying a new car, or when you've just bought a new car, you've chosen a colour, chosen a model, whatever, suddenly you start seeing that car everywhere. And obviously it's not that everybody has suddenly on the same day gone out and bought the exact same car as you've bought or the car that you're thinking of buying. It's because you've told your RAS that that car is important to you by spending time thinking about it and looking at it and focusing on it. So now when the 11 million bits of information per second are pouring through your brain, it is catching anything related to that car and serving it up to you instead of letting it go down the rubbish chute, which is why you start seeing it on the road everywhere, and why you start seeing it in car parks, and why you're suddenly noticing it all the time when you can't remember ever having noticed that specific car before. You know, you haven't noticed ever seeing it before because you weren't thinking about buying it then, so you weren't focusing on it, so you hadn't yet trained your RAS to pick out any information relevant to it. Your brain also loves proving you right because of something called the confirmation bias, which means that your brain loves seeking out and focusing on any information it receives that confirms any of your pre-existing beliefs. In other words, one of the things that your RAS is pre-trained to do is catch any information that confirms or supports any of your pre-existing beliefs and send it through to your conscious mind so that you are focused on it. Which means that if any information passes through your brain that supports a way that you historically have thought, you're almost guaranteed to notice it. So if you put in the work to believe that the day is what you make it, and any day can be a good or great day, and that there are constantly things to be happy and positive about, because of a confirmation bias, your brain will actively seek out bits of information and evidence of that belief to be serving up to you to reinforce this pre-existing belief. So imagine you start putting in the work to believe that the day is genuinely what you make it, and that any day can be a good or great day, and that there are constantly things to be grateful for and positive things happening around you and things to be happy about. Your confirmation bias means that your brain will start actively seeking out bits of information amongst those 11 million deliveries to your noggin per second that confirm and reinforce this belief. Basically, the more you believe a statement to be true, the less heavy lifting you will have to do to maintain this positive attitude, and the more your confirmation bias and RAS will start working in your favour to help you maintain a positive disposition. And the more it will start pointing out to you things to be grateful for, and that at least some, if not many things are going your way, and there are always many reasons to believe that today is a good day. But the way to get yourself to believe a statement initially is to start manually and actively seeking out the positives in your day, to train your RAS to start letting them through the filter. And the easiest way to do that, I think, is through a regular gratitude practice. Proactively making it a habit to count your blessings and the good and positive things in the world is a surefire way, I think, to send a message to your RAS that says, hey, noticing the good and positive things around me is really important to me. Please show me more of them and don't let any slide down your rubbish chute. I literally just write down 3 things each morning that I'm grateful for to remind my RAS that positivity is important to me and help me set a happy, hopeful tone for the rest of the day. And because positivity and gratitude is such a conscious lifestyle choice for me now, I will frequently find myself throughout the day just thinking, oh, what am I grateful for right now? Where is the good around me? You can do this by yourself or with your partner or a family member or friend. You can write it down or just think it or say it out loud to yourself. You can do it whilst you're in the shower, do it whilst you're getting ready, do it on your commute, write it down in your notes app on the way to work or school. There are so many ways in which you can incorporate this into your life, but I would highly recommend making it an active choice to include this practice in your life regularly. I can say with so much confidence that I just experience life completely differently now to how I did just a few years ago before I started taking advantage of this knowledge. And I used to be an extremely cynical, pessimistic, laser focused on the negative person who spent so much time thinking about all the things that were stacked against me and all the things going wrong that I didn't have any focus left to give to any of the positive. If that sounds at all familiar to you, just believe that it is more than possible to completely change and do a 180 on that. You can teach yourself to see the absolute magic in the tiniest, most mundane, everyday sights and sounds and chores and activities. And you do this by training your RAS to highlight and acknowledge the silver linings that are and always have been absolutely everywhere. You just haven't been wired to notice them before. I'll wrap this point up by saying that the best day of your life might not be a huge event or special occasion day. And I think certainly for me, it probably hasn't been, because I think a lot of the time with those days in particular, we can set our expectations super high. And then if a day falls short of those, we can end up feeling quite low afterwards. I think my favourite days are actually the mundane, everyday days, because I have learnt how to make them feel magical and joyous and exciting and peace-filled. I think partly through my lifestyle choices, but probably mostly, to be honest, through this brain training. Basically, you are in charge of your own life, and having a great day starts with taking control and not only choosing to take aligned action, but probably more importantly, to adopt an aligned mindset and perspective. Number 2 is that nothing lasts forever, and pain is a price we pay occasionally to be alive. None of us can escape it. If all else fails, telling myself that this feeling will pass and that I'm just paying my dues helps. If we didn't suffer, we wouldn't be able to truly experience joy, and I think suffering gives us the essential context to be able to understand what happiness actually is. I've got an example to help you understand this. If you imagine for a minute that you are living in a world that is continuously at a temperature of 40 degrees, say, Celsius, would you know that that was pretty damn hot? I think it's only through knowing how 40-degree heat feels in comparison to a day of 16-degree heat and 0-degree heat that we can actually understand what temperature means. Do you think we would know when we were happy if we also didn't know what it felt like to be in pain? I don't think we would have any concept of emotion and feeling if we lived in a constant state of bliss. We need pain to teach us what happiness is, and I think we need to understand what something is fully in order to be able to appreciate it. Pain also teaches us not to take happiness for granted when we do feel and experience it, and of course gratitude can have an immense impact on our emotional well-being and mindset. All of this is to say that happiness only exists in relation to pain, and I think experiencing pain can enhance our feelings of happiness when it returns. To me, just understanding this makes the harder moments and days easier, and when I am going through a rough patch now, I will talk to myself internally and say, hey, it's okay, this is normal to experience, you are just paying your dues. I am literally paying for my future happiness with this experience. This pain is the currency with which I am buying my joy, and I will get through this, and no feeling lasts forever. This will eventually fade, and I will be safe and happy on the other side of it. And this experience will allow me to appreciate the happiness even more when it does come back to me and when I do experience it again. I think thinking about it like that makes it feel more like a price that I am genuinely willing and happy to pay. Seeing suffering as the trade-off for joy and magic and this wonderful rounded experience of being a human being, to me, makes it worth it. And it means that sad days and low days and angry days and lonely days stop becoming such a negative, scary thing to be avoided, and it reduces the intensity of those negative feelings. Number 3, just because a relationship or living circumstance or job or degree is just fine doesn't mean that it's not harming you. If it's not serving you and your happiness, it's robbing you of your most precious and finite resource, your time, without giving you anything in return, and it's taking up space that could be held for something that will add to your life instead. This one actually probably doesn't need that much explanation. Like, I think enough is said in that statement, but it's one that I really, really want people to take in and internalize and think about, because it's so important. You deserve, and we all deserve, so much more than a job or friendships or a relationship that is just fine, not taking anything away from our lives but not adding anything to it, or that isn't bad enough to leave or quit or stop investing in. Like, baby girl, if it is not everything that you could dream of and more, it is bad enough to leave and stop investing in and stop giving your time and energy to, because you do not have limitless time and energy in this life. So if you're not being incredibly intentional with where you are spending them, you are doing yourself a disservice, and you're wasting these resources that you could be putting into the job and the relationship and the friendships and the hobbies and the lifestyle that is everything you could ever want for yourself, and is gonna let you experience this whole other plane level of existence. Obviously, please don't just up and quit your job. You've got to pay the bills, we all do, but you can stay in your current situation whilst looking for or working towards better, in the knowledge that there will always be better out there. Friendships and relationships, I think, are different. For most of us monogamous folk, you cannot make space for your dream partner to come into your life, or for you to invite your dream partner into your life, if you are holding on to a relationship that is not serving you or in your highest interest. Likewise, you can't make space for and set aside time and energy to invest into new friendships if you are pouring all of the time and energy that you have into friendships that aren't living up to your hopes and dreams and aren't actually adding any value to your life at all. There are people out there waiting for somebody like you to find them, or looking for somebody like you who will fill you up with light and joy and happiness and make you feel so lucky to be alive. But you have to let go of the situations and people that aren't for you in order to make room for the people that are. Number 4, when you take complete responsibility for every aspect of your life, you are free. This one is going to be brief because I did do a whole episode on this and the topic of extreme ownership. It was number 5. I think that was a pretty decent episode, but I just wanted to throw it in here as like a refresher or a reminder for anybody who did listen to it. Accountability and learning to identify where you do have control over your own choices and circumstances will grant you so much freedom, and freedom and control are 2 essential components to our happiness. Just a quick recap. Extreme ownership is the mindset that every outcome in your life, minus a few obvious extreme exceptions, but I won't insult anybody's intelligence by listing, is your own fault and your own responsibility. So if you are somebody who frequently says things like, but this will be so much harder for me because I'm so busy and free time deprived, or but I never had a financial leg up, or I can't do ABC because of XYZ circumstance and everything is harder for me and it's not my fault that I can't do it. No amount of external validation that your life is hard will ever change your circumstances. Again, I say it with so much love, and it's not coming from a place of wanting fairness or wanting to bash people or being irritated at people complaining or being the victim. It's not about that. It's about wanting people to be empowered to be happy in their own bodies and brains and lives. How many occasions of people validating the fact that your life is hard and you do have difficult circumstances stacked against you is it going to take you to realize that this constant seeking of validation instead of looking inwards for solutions is what is keeping you stuck in the life that you feel is so miserable? When people, including me, preach about taking responsibility for your own life and ditching the excuses, that is not them invalidating your pain or the fact that some of those excuses may well be very real friction points and setbacks. And certainly a lot of them are probably very unfair. I think one of the harsh realities of the human existence is we do not live in an equal, just world. But 2 things can be true at once. That pain and struggle and friction can be real and valid, and at the same time you can still choose to do everything that is in your power to work towards the goals and life that you want regardless of your circumstances. And there will always be something that is within your control that you could be taking advantage of, or something that you could be doing to help yourself. You can validate your own experiences and struggles and how tough it is to have things stacked against you that other people don't have to face, at the same time as training your RAS to point out to you opportunities that you do have to take control over your own life within the confines of your circumstances. So if there's something that you want to work towards, or something that you want to achieve, or something that you want to change about your life, but you are currently stuck behind your excuses, take this as a sign to identify at least one thing that you could take control of and you could be utilizing and you could be doing differently to get you closer to that. Number 5, you get to create your own character in your life. There is nothing to say that you can't decide to show up as a completely different person tomorrow if that's what you want. I feel like we could all just do with reminding of this every now and again. Your past does not have to equal your future, and you are not destined to continue living your life through a certain persona or lifestyle just because that is what you have always done up until this point. Carrying on through life with the same personality traits and habits and routines and lifestyle choices as we always have done is not inevitable. It's not just the way it is a choice, and you can always choose differently. There's a Tony Robbins quote that I wrote down in relation to this discussion, and it goes, "The biggest conflict that humans experience on a daily basis is the need to remain consistent in the way they choose to identify themselves." Breaking free from or changing the narratives that we have told ourselves about ourselves and who we are and our lives and what they're going to look like and how our day-to-day is going to pan out is a really difficult thing to do. Because our brains don't like the unknown, and they don't like what we haven't experienced before, and they don't like change. So these dislikes and discomfort, I think, is what keeps a lot of people stuck. But the dislikes and discomfort make change more difficult. They don't make it impossible. So you now already know one way in which to start working towards becoming a more positive person, but there are infinite ways in which we can change ourselves and our personalities and our lives. Say if you've always thought of yourself as a socially awkward, unconfident person who doesn't attract friends easily, maybe today is the day that you wake up and say to yourself, how would a confident, likable, friendly person who makes and maintains great friendships act today? Like, how would they interact with the people that they know? How would they walk into a room? Would they smile at people when they saw them? Would they ask people questions about how their day had gone? Would they be the one to take initiative and start creating and forging those friendships instead of waiting for people to come to them and make the effort? Or if you want to improve your physical or mental health or your school or work performance, throughout the day when you come to times where you have to make decisions, start asking yourself, what would a healthy or happy or driven or successful person do at this point? And if you ask yourself those questions and you find that you don't know the answers, that's okay. Maybe it's time to do some research, hit the books, open social media, listen to some podcast episodes, find some answers. Start looking up how to make people feel seen and heard and listened to in conversations and how to create bonds with people. Or start looking up how to improve your physical health or how to improve your mental health or how to achieve better results in the work that you're doing. We can change any and every part of our personalities with invested time and effort, and it is literally never too late to reinvent yourself or choose a new path. We are all the creators and writers of our own life stories. So if there are things that you don't like about yourself or your life or ways in which you would like to be different, maybe it's time to get out a pen and a piece of paper. Start writing down what the ideal version of you would look like and identify where you need to start making changes in order to transition into that dream version of you. And finally, for this episode, number 6. Amazing relationships and friendships are beautiful to have, but you don't have to be miserable until you find them. You can trust that you're on your way to them and enjoy all the extra time that you have to do exactly what you want to do and get to know yourself and who you want to be. One of the biggest things that I try to be really aware of and proactive about reminding myself in my own life is that two things can be true at the same time. It applies to so many things, like the example that I used in regards to extreme ownership. I've written out the application of it that I want to use in regards to this point. I'm just going to read it out because it's well worded in my notes. But you can acknowledge that you're not where you want to be in an aspect of your life and that there are things missing from it that you want really, really badly. And you can feel whatever feelings that brings up for you and feel low and jealous and even angry, whatever. And you can also see what blessings your current situation exclusively has to offer and choose to savor them whilst they last. It's part of a human experience to need and crave human connection, but I think we can often let that desire and yearning take over our lives. It becomes all consuming and we can end up wishing away the period that we're currently living in. And the reality is we might not ever get this period of time again and the unique benefits that it offers us. For example, I think it's quite common for single people to yearn for and fantasize about when they get in a relationship, and they probably spend lots of time thinking about how when they do get into a relationship their life will be as close to perfect as it can be and they'll experience this sudden surge of happiness. And I say all that because I know I've definitely been there in between relationships, longing for that person again who lights you up with electricity and butterflies and makes everything feel like you're seeing it through rose-tinted glasses. In other words, we delay our happiness until this future event, which I know I spoke about way back in episode 1. I know that it's natural as humans to need and crave companionship, and I also think it's 100% normal and should be completely okay to indulge in some fantasizing about when we do get a partner and feel like maybe there is something missing when we are single. But I think the crucial thing here is not putting your life on pause by failing to maintain your happiness in the meantime and look at and optimize any other areas of your life just because things don't look the way you want them to end in this one area, which is having a romantic relationship. And this goes for so many things outside of relationships, like careers and friendships and housing and financial situations. And I think optimizing your life with the metaphorical hand of cards that you're currently holding involves identifying the unique blessings that your current situation is bringing you. And it means making the most out of them, especially the ones that you might lose if or when your situation changes. The thing with times of solitude, whether that's through being single or losing friends or growing gradually more distant from people that you used to have a stronger connection with and spend more time with, is it gives you this golden opportunity to prioritize yourself and spend that extra time and energy with yourself, getting to know yourself better, making time for things that you love doing, finding out what's important to you, building your confidence and expanding your comfort zone by treating yourself for the sake of it and going out and doing things that you usually would do with others by yourself. But I think more interestingly than any of those things is how much easier it makes it to change things about yourself or your life, or to otherwise put it, to rebrand yourself or change the character that you show up as. When you want to make a big personality or lifestyle change, you do not know whether the people closest to you are gonna like or accept the new version of you or the choices that you're making or not. You don't know how they're gonna respond, and I think especially for anybody with an inkling of people-pleasing tendencies, which I think most of us do have because we all have this innate desire to be liked and be accepted, like that's a survival trait. So the thought of rocking the boat or going against anybody's expectations of us or having somebody turn around and say, why have you changed, is really disconcerting. It can be really frightening. So there's a fear of being disliked or rejected there. People can spend so long thinking, oh, but if I do this, what will my friends or family or partner think when they're considering making a change? When you're single or outgrowing any kind of relationship or close friendships, you don't have to think about that as much. When we're going through these periods of solitude or periods of time where we're spending less time with people or we're less closely intertwined with them, we don't have as many people witnessing us try to make change in our lives and navigate it as intently and as close up. So it's okay to feel lonely and to feel sad because of that and to want change. But please don't let you overlook the unique benefits of solitude, particularly for personal reevaluation and growth, and time to spend with yourself for yourself, working out who you want to be. Identity change is so much easier when you're not wasting time worrying about people's perception of you. And also, time alone to get back in touch with yourself means you're given this amazing opportunity to get closer to who you want to be, and therefore start attracting people who are more aligned with your ideal version of you into your life. To add to that, I think maybe in these times of solitude, the stakes aren't as high when we want to change because we don't have this pressure to keep showing up as the person that our partner or friend thinks we are in order to maintain those relationships. And that can give you so much more freedom if that is the way you choose to perceive your situation, instead of purely feeling sad at being lonely and have those missing relationships. You have the space now to actually ask yourself, who would I be if no one was watching, and start moving towards that version of yourself. So just know that in the future, you will have that dream partner and you will have the dream friendships and you will be surrounded with people that you have so much love for and are so aligned with. But for now, you have this gift to invest that love into yourself and to find out who you want to be for those future people. I feel like that last one was a little bit more rambly, probably because it's probably a bit more of a personal reminder more than anything. I think since starting this podcast, which has been 5-6 months ago, my life has been brilliant. I've been in a really, really good place in almost all aspects of my life. But I think the biggest struggle that I've gone through has been the loss of key friendships and the distancing I felt from people who I used to be much closer to. So a lot of this actually is a reminder to myself, because that is one of the ways I've gotten through it, is telling myself that, do you know what, I might not get this time again to invest all that love into myself and work out who I want to be and what I want to change and how I want to show up when I am meeting new people. it's just another area in my life where I think I have two choices as to how I see this. I can stay stuck in the loneliness and the sadness and the grief, or I can choose to either see a blessing in it or make a blessing out of it for myself. And that kind of encompasses what this whole episode was about. But that was our last point, so that brings us to the end of today's episode, and I hope this helped at least one person feel more empowered to make something positive out of their day or a situation that they're in right now. Like always, if you did get anything out of this, please consider subscribing or following or liking or giving me a star rating and or leaving a comment just to help me get this out to more people and find more people who could benefit from it. It would really mean the world to me. I love you so much, and I hope that your days are filled with plenty of things to be grateful for until I next speak to you, and bye for now.